Welcome to Permission to Kick Ass, a podcast about leaving self-doubt in the dust, punching fear in the face, and taking bold action toward your biggest dreams. I'm Angie Coley, and let's get to it. Hey, and welcome back to Permission to Kick Ass. With me today is my new friend, and we have just spent so much time talking and laughing. I almost forgot to record the damn episode. Anyway, welcome to the show, Laurie-Ann Murabito.
Hello. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you because first off, I got to say, I just love the name of your podcast. I'm sure you hear that all the time.
I get that a lot. And it's funny because when I tell people that it's kind of stolen from one of my mentors, but he's never had a problem with that. And he loves that. So
mentors, what would we do without them? Mm-hmm.
I think they're loving mirrors that reflect things back to you that you can't see without help. And yeah. I think of that. I think of a lot of the relationships that I have in life, personally and business-wise, the same way. Like the reflection of a loving mirror versus the distorted shit that we see when we start self-examination and judgment. Like, yeah.
I would have to say I have an unknown mentor that got me into the personal development world. So I come from healthcare, and I did cardiac and vascular ultrasound, and I was doing a cardiac ultrasound, an echocardiogram for anybody who's listening who knows what I'm talking about. And it had to be a gentleman because he was buttoning his shirt while I was kind of like just taking down some notes. And he said to me, and I have no idea what the conversation was that I had said to him, but he said to me, "You'd probably love the book, The Magic of Thinking Big." Me being the, 22, 23, 24-year-old, grabbed a scrap piece of paper. I wrote the title down and I said to him, if I don't get it tonight, I will get it tomorrow. Because right down the street, there was a Barnes and Noble. Oh, got that book, read that book. And that was like the door that opened this world about, oh my God, I could be so much more.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. I feel like that's the theme of today because I record multiple episodes in one day, but the gentleman that I spoke to right before you, we were talking about this whole concept of the right idea at the right time being a life changer and how that could be you out there changing somebody's life just by sharing your thoughts and opinions, giving what you can, helping where you can. You could literally be changing the course of somebody else's life and never even know. Because they don't know to reach out and tell you, or they get distracted, or other things happen. But we often get in this, I think, role or this thought process that if we're going to have an impact on the world, it needs to be this grand scale. We need to be Mother Teresa, or you need to be an Elon Musk. Not that he's an actual kind person, but anyway, moving on. But to change the world, you don't have to actually be operating on that large of a scale. Like think of the ripple impacts of you making a positive difference on one person who goes out and makes a positive difference on another person, and on it goes.
That's what and it's literally that ripple effect, that domino effect, all because you either said something. I mean, like this person has no idea. I'm sure he walked away from the room probably. Mm-hmm. Maybe he didn't even think, she's not going to get the book. I keep promoting that damn book. Maybe it was his book. Like, who knows?
But wouldn't that be something? That was his book. You should get my book.
And because neither one of my parents were in this personal development world at all. So this just opened my eyes and it's definitely was that very first step that got me to where I am right here.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, and speaking of right here, tell us a little bit more about you and your business.
Thank you. I am a reformed, painfully shy girl who accidentally became a professional speaker. People find that very hard to believe, but there's a story there, and I'm happy to share that. So I became a professional speaker. I got to a point where I was just hopping on airplanes constantly. And then one day I finally said, instead of coaching clients and speaking at their events, speaking for their companies, I just thought, universe, there has got to be a different business model. Mm-hmm. And it came in the form of a text message.
Interesting.
somebody who had seen me speak several times locally here in New Hampshire. And she had won a coaching session. So that's why she had my phone number. And the text message said, Laurie-Ann, do you write speeches for people?
Mm.
And I was like, so if you could see my face, I had this like weird face. And I was like, no, I don't write speeches for people. Instead, I said like, well, how about we like meet and let's talk? And I ended up, she was somebody who was 3 years away from retiring from her government job. She wasn't leaving. At that point, you stand on your head to finish off your 20, 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
You had a side hustle for 5 years and was successfully losing money for 5 years. So that's why she's turning to me like, can you help me write a speech? And I was like, oh, I can teach you how to get booked. I can teach you how to write what I call a 3 C's presentation, which is compelling, captivating, and most importantly, converting. And then I said, and then I'll teach you how to leverage it afterwards so that it turns into more. I had so much fun working with her, sharing, like my knowledge with somebody else. And after her first presentation, she walked away with 2 referrals to 2 other places to speak and 3 full paying clients.
Oh my gosh, that's
and
amazing.
I was like, that's a home run. Oh, I wonder if anybody else wants to know what I know. And so literally I was just like, okay, so there is a different business model. Mm-hmm. And that's what brought me into the online world, which was a whole nother learning curve as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was furiously scribbling notes while listening to you talk. There's something interesting that came to my attention recently called human design. I don't know how familiar you are with it. But somebody encouraged me to take a test, and I consider myself a lifelong learner, even if a little bit skeptical of woo type things. But I am very curious about it. And any test that helps you understand yourself a bit more, I think is good. So I discovered I'm apparently a generator, and I've been reading more about this because I don't understand what it means. But it means kind of similar to you. We go out, we put our energy out into the world, and then we respond to invitations. And I was like, it's really freaking weird, but if I look back over the course of my life, that's exactly how my best opportunities have come up. I go out, I do something, I put a lot of positive energy into this. I'm not trying to manifest anything or anything like that, but I just go do something that feels good with my whole heart and my whole soul. And people resonate with that, and they come back to me and they're like, hey, you should host a podcast. You should be a coach. And I go, yeah, that sounds interesting. And then I jump into that for a while. And that usually creates another encounter with another person and another opportunity and so on and so forth. So I find that interesting because that sounded like the same thing. You got an invitation.
Yeah. So I'm a manifesting generator, but the woman who did my reading said I'm more generator than I am manifesting generator. And just to hear you share your explanation of generators, I'm like, oh, now I get it.
I am not an expert in this by any means. If you were curious about human design, definitely look it up. There are people out there that do custom reports and stuff, but I just found that interesting because I had never noticed that pattern in my life. And I guess I should clarify because the most interesting and successful and biggest paths to growth for me were all responses to invitations, because I was out there putting my full heart and soul into something I was doing, acting in compassion and integrity. And then the right people that liked that, because, not everybody likes me, and that's fine, because I don't like everybody either. It's okay.
Right.
But the right people that like that were like, let's find a way to work together. I'm working on this. Is that something interesting to you? I'm like, oh, hell yeah. Oh, crap. Sorry. You're supposed to think about these things, right? Nope, not going to. Just going to say yes. We'll figure it out.
Go for it. Go for it. I'm definitely one of those. I'll jump and I'll grow my wings as I'm falling. I'll figure it out. I always figure things out.
Yes. And I thought that was interesting too, because one of the things that I wrote down was not knowing how to, or not knowing if you can, but just taking a step and pausing and saying, yeah, okay, what do you need help with? Let's do this. I feel like a lot of people might get stuck at a place like that where they get asked a point blank question like that. Have you ever written speeches for people? The answer is no, right? But you understand the context of that, which is, are you open to writing speeches for people? So if you can pause and listen to what the real question is, oh man, And that it sounds like it changed the whole course of your life too.
It did, and there I was, like I was running 2 websites because I was a speaker in the leadership and corporate, industry. So I had to leave that website up because I still had, like leadership, keynotes on the calendar.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I can't confuse people. And so then I started this other thing, and I just had so much fun. And I didn't end up writing the speech for her because I told her, I said, if I write it, it's going to be my voice. You're going to write it. I'm just going to give you the structure and I'm going to help you edit it so that it's compelling, captivating, converting. I said, and because you're going to write it, that's going to be part of how you memorize it and how you learn your presentation.
Oh, I love that.
Like I still do that. Like I don't write speeches for people because I just don't think it's going to do them any good.
I totally agree with you. I think that's, because my background is as a copywriter, and I actually I've told this story on the show before, but I spent 4 years as basically a ghostwriter for a big personality brand. I wrote as him, late 50s, early 60s family man from Michigan, totally different background from me, but was able to not only write as him, but run his team, edit other writers trying to write it as him. And it was definitely a different skill set. And I would say that the biggest thing that I learned from that in trying to capture somebody else's voice was not to try and write as him, if that makes sense. It was like, I needed to figure out the message. I needed to figure out what we wanted people to do and just kind of write that, connect all the dots, made sure it flowed, walk away. And then I needed to come back and be like, all right, how would he say this? How would he say this? I had to edit in his voice. I couldn't write.
Oh, I like that. Edit in his voice.
And I do something similar now where people are like, can you help me with a project? We've got a very specific brand voice and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, you need to write this. That's the exercise. I can help you fill in the gaps. I can help you with the logic and the transitions, but I can't be you. I can only get really close. So yeah. I found that interesting. And the other thing that really stuck out to me when you were talking was you mentioned this 3 C's format. And I was curious about, was that something that you already did in your speeches, or was that something that developed as a course of working with your clients?
It was something that I had developed before working with clients to teach them how to use speaking, just because I was writing my own speeches and they had to be compelling, captivating, and converting, and the converting is not just clients, but it's like spin-off business. It's like it's other speeches, so that you step off the stage, this is what I tell all my clients. Like my goal for them is that they step off the stage and somebody comes up to them and is handing them business cards saying, please call me because I want to bring you into my company. I'm on the committee for this other event and you'd be perfect for it. Some sort of spin-off business.
I love that. And I think that's something that we don't really talk about enough in business, or maybe the more accurate term would be, it has not been my experience as a woman in business to hear this be explicitly talked about, but you get to make offers. You get to ask people to contact you. You get to sell your shit every opportunity that you get. And you don't need permission to do that because you got a business to run.
Right. And it can be so easy in speaking. Like one of the things that we start with is like what's the goal of the speech? Like literally, and the goal doesn't have to be like, I want to sell this. It's just like, when you're done speaking, and I wrote both of my books this way, when the client is done, when the reader is done, like reading the book and they close it, I thought, what do I want them to think, feel, or do differently? Great. There's the goal. This is how you start with the end in mind. And I do this with speaking too. Start with the end in mind. Here's the goal. So in order for that to happen, what has to be in the book? What has to be in the speech? Fantastic. Now we know what the parts are. Yeah. And I just it's literally like I work my way back to right to the beginning.
I love that, especially since you brought that up in the context of writing books, which I know a lot of people are really interested in, right? Being a published author, it's just really cool. It's this great status symbol. And then it's like a symbol of pride because it's hard work to produce a book and put it out there. And it's interesting to me that you said start with the end of in mind, because I feel like so many people that want to write a book or want to write a speech, that thought never occurs to them.
They start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if you're going to write and speak, I tell people, write the right book. Write the book that basically is the next step. Like after you're done speaking, like the book is like, oh, here's like what she talked about. Here's what, like it goes into depth on the points that she was sharing, so that it's just the next step.
Ooh, I love that. Thinking of this in terms of like the journey that you're going to take people on, and not just people, the right people that get what you're trying to say, the end goal that you're trying to get them to with the speech or with the book or with everything is in line with their goals, and they know it as soon as they hear it. And you've already done that thinking to get them there step by step.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
They can't see me. I'm over here dancing in my chair.
Yeah.
So I imagine the development of this career, though, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we often talk about kind of how we discovered this and our origin story. And to people from the outside, it sounds like it was just this, okay, I discovered this thing. And then I just like took off like a rocket and I never looked back. And this was amazing. Would you say that's been your experience in developing this?
No.
I had a feeling you were going to say that, but I had to be dramatic in my setup.
There were a lot of hiking without boots. And ouch, as I like walked over those stones.
That's such an interesting metaphor that I've never heard before, but I love it. You get that instant visual of hiking without boots. Ouch.
Yeah, it hurts. It was, I had to learn a lot of lessons, and so back to part of my intro where I said, I'm a reformed, painfully shy girl who accidentally became a speaker. And you mentioned something also about self-integrity earlier. And that's a little bit about how I became a professional speaker. So I'm going to tell you and your audience, all the listeners, like a funny story. So I really was the sort of person I couldn't even make eye contact. And I knew deep down inside, this is as a teenager, this was not, and I don't know where I got this. Again, like mom and dad aren't in the personal development. Dad's an engineer. Mom was afraid of people. So, okay. Like the genes were, didn't set me up to be a speaker. That's for sure. So I just knew that it wasn't going to serve me in the long run. So I just thought, well, I'll just a little bit, just for a few seconds. Okay. The earth did not open up, didn't swallow me whole. The person that I was talking to didn't punch me, didn't think I was weird or anything. So I was like, maybe I could do it for a few more seconds and a few more seconds. And that's how I started to at least make eye contact with people. Now I have a degree in exercise physiology. Guess who became a fitness instructor teaching classes?
Oh.
Yeah. So I would be yelling at people, yelling at people to motivate them. So then this idea of, maybe if I became a speaker, I mean, I've been yelling at people, so maybe I could talk to them rather reasonably. Left my corporate job, which was in healthcare, and I moved over to the medical device and left my corporate job. And I was with a few other women because women network differently.
Yes.
And so we were creating an event that would be networking, but also education. And like so they all looked at me and said, you do the speaking. And inside, I'm shaking my head, yes. But inside, I'm just like, what the hell are you doing? Seriously. And I was just like, but I said that I would do it. So I had to do it. So for anybody out there who's listening who wants to get into speaking, I'm going to share with you, I'm going to describe my first speaking event. It went something like this. There was no intro. There was no beginning. There was no warm up. It was just, I started teaching.
Nice.
For about 15 minutes. Okay. This is how it came to an end. Okay. Now I'm done. I literally said that. Now I'm done. And if you want to talk to me privately, I'll be in the back of the room. I mean, I just wanted to get away. And it was a standing room only. I mean, it was a hot New England afternoon. it was at a conference center that out in the woods, like Little Red Riding Hood, like out in the woods, and there was no air conditioning at this place. Okay. So you get a feel for the setting, but people came up to me and started asking me questions. Like, oh, do you do you work with clients? Is this what you do for them? And I was just like, did you see the train wreck that just happened?
Interesting. Was that a conscious thought or just something that popped into your mind at the last second because you could have just ended it with, okay, I'm done and just walked away and kind of embraced the awkwardness,
Yes.
But you chose to throw out this implied invitation, right? Of I'll be in the back of the room if you have questions. Subtext, it's okay to come talk to me. I welcome that. And then people did. Was that something that was planned or just came off the top of your head?
It just happened.
Nice.
I think I just said it spur of the moment. I had to get out of the front of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a recording somewhere on one of those flip videos. Do you remember those?
Yes, I do.
I think I have a copy of it somewhere. Because we did, my sister tagged along, and I think she did the recording. But I just kind of just said that just to get away from,
mm-hmm.
The front of the room. So apparently I wasn't doing any Q&A.
Yep. But what a great way if you are feeling shy and kind of you're on the spot on stage. I know that's a lot of my students have that moment of discomfort. If I have to present and people ask me questions, I don't feel like I am really good at thinking on the fly. And what if I don't know what the answer to their question is? And they don't also feel comfortable. I've gotten very comfortable the further I've gone going, I actually don't know the answer to that one. That's a really good one. Here are some resources that might be able to help you with that problem. And, if you connect with me after this, I can look into it a little bit more for you. But I've gotten
that's a perfect way to answer it. You don't have to answer or know everything, but a simple, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a great question. Come up to, give me your contact information. I'll get an answer to you because I know people.
And that's the funniest learning, I think, overall in my journey to expertise and really getting comfortable owning, feeling like an expert, I actually know what I'm talking about, especially since, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, the more that you learn, the more you realize there's so much more to learn. And I don't know it all and I can't possibly know it all. And I feel kind of dumb.
Yeah. I don't think we ever arrive.
Yeah.
Life is just a journey.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, and I think this question is applicable to what we're saying right now. A lot of times I've had people say, what was your best speech? My next one.
Love it.
Because I'm always, oh, wow, I wish I had said this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Next time I'm going to try this story there.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something that I want to try and do differently. I'm always trying to improve.
I love that. And the funny thing is that I think the most successful, the most well-connected people that I know all seem to have this personal development fascination, almost an obsession with learning how can I know more about myself? How can I understand my own motivations? How can I connect with people better? It's an interesting thing to me because I don't think that there are a lot of people self-aware enough to focus on personal development.
Yeah, no, it's very true. They're just kind of, this is just the way that things are.
Yep.
This is the way that my life is. I have no say in how my life turns out. And I don't subscribe to that story.
I love that. I want that on a freaking mug, on a t-shirt. I don't subscribe to that story because we hear that just in the story that you're telling today, right? Everybody knows what a painfully shy person, we've all either been that person or encountered that person. And, I have this theory of thought that, especially if we're nervous about, one of the big fears is speaking on stage, right? People feel like they're going to be judged, but nobody in the audience is rooting for you to fail. No. That's just a TV and movie trope. All of those people are going I hope this is good. I hope this is entertaining. I hope this is valuable. And if you stumble or you get visibly nervous, everybody in the audience is uncomfortable for you. And they're oh my gosh, no, just take a deep breath, honey. or maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but when I see somebody encounter that, like they are visibly nervous, I'm just sitting there like, breathe, honey, breathe, honey.
Yep.
We're cheering you on. It's okay. It's okay. Nobody's here judging you. Just breathe.
I actually spoke at a speaker showcase here locally in New Hampshire, and there was a young lady and she'd never spoken before, but she had a story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And she got up there and she was really nervous. And she had to take a moment. She was like, okay, she just said, she goes, I'm nervous.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, okay. She goes, let me just take a couple of deep breaths. And like the whole audience is just like, we're here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Breathe. Okay. You got this.
Oh man, that's so great. And it's interesting to me because one of the things that I wrote down was just putting yourself out there and trying something, because I loved this concept of, I couldn't even look people in the eye. It just made me very uncomfortable. So I don't know if I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but like what led to you going, okay, but if I just try it for a few seconds and see what happens, I'm comfortable with that.
So I worked at a grocery store when I was in high school. And that's kind of where this all like stemmed from. And I remember just watching Richard Gazzardi. He was so outgoing. He's like, I think he went into sales. And he was perfect for that. But he was just so outgoing. And he would just like talk to everybody like before the shift was starting. And I was just like, oh my God, to be that easy, to just be able to converse with people. And I remember saying to myself, like, not making eye contact and not speaking up is not going to do me any good in the long run. Like, what teenager is thinking about their adulthood? Mm-hmm. But for some reason, like, it was just like a download. It was almost like a whisper, like, just start making eye contact, like just a baby step right now. Mm-hmm. Just a baby step and see what happens.
I love that. Especially like the myth of entrepreneurship is like everybody has the plan. We have the master plan, the 10-year plan, 5-year, 1 year, got the backup and the backup to the backup, and like on it goes, right? Prepared.
You and I are generators, like, do we have a plan for tomorrow?
Nope. Prepared for every eventuality. Guys, before I became a copywriter, I had no idea that it even existed as a profession or a skill set. It was a book I read, right idea at the right time. And I was like, I think I could do that. And then there we go. Change the course of a life. I find that interesting because I feel like I'm repeating myself saying interesting, but everything here is really fascinating. One of the things that really jumped out at me in you telling me how you learned to like make eye contact and what really motivated you to do that was this idea of letting it be easy. Because how often do we get caught up in our own minds? I know I'm guilty of this too, especially if I've got a task that I've been kind of putting off or I'm a little bit intimidated by or overwhelmed by. I start catastrophizing in my head and it's going to take me this much time and it's going to be this much effort. And like, I wind up spending so much time agonizing over how much time this is going to take me that when I finally set a timer and make myself get down to business, usually because I'm up against a deadline, I get that thing done in like 20 minutes and I go, oh, well, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be.
I think for me, it's taking the emotion out of the task. Here's a great one. A lot of people, well, I'll write when I'm motivated to. Yep. I'll reach out when I'm inspired, like to reach out to people. It's like, no. So I did a podcast episode on this, and it's something that I say, like, as entrepreneurs, it's like we have a split personality. Mm-hmm. Draw a line like right through yourself, and like one side of you is the CEO and the other side of you is the employee. So can you imagine the CEO saying, hey, Angie, you need to go write that and finish that article? Yeah, I don't feel like it. Mm-hmm. I mean, the CEO is going to say like, what?
Yeah.
Excuse me, you're fired.
Do you want to get paid? I mean, that is why that's how you get paid. Do that thing.
So I think like as entrepreneurs, we need to think of ourselves as a split personality, like step into your CEO role. Here's what needs to get done. Write your damn list, and then step into your employee role and go do the list. Start checking things off. Take the emotion out of the task.
Oh, that's so awesome. I teach a similar concept to my writing teams when I'm running them called switching hats. And I think it's kind of a similar thing because I think the most effective sales writers because, I've given this definition before, but copywriting is a form of sales. And there's a lot of, human psychology, understanding the market's needs, the voice of this personality. Like there's a whole lot of complex thinking that gets layered into every word that goes onto that page. And I just lost my train of thought. Damn.
Okay, I'm going to say something about copy.
Yeah, go for it.
Speaking. I mean, like copy is words on a website, words in like an ad, words in an email. And copy is also speaking.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. Oh, it was switching hats. I remember now because a lot of people, especially when writing, feel like they've got to wait for that motivation. The muse has got to come down and it's got to be a perfect draft. And I'm like, I subscribe to the school of Anne Lamott. She's one of my favorite writers. She's so just like subtly funny and hilarious. And she has this concept called the shitty first draft that I have been in love with ever since I read the book Bird by Bird. And you've really got to commit yourself to doing it wrong so that you can figure out what is wrong about it and actually address those things. And then with more practice, you start delivering more first drafts that are closer to right than they are wrong.
Yes.
But
I had heard somebody like something similar, not the shitty draft. And I can't remember the interviewer who said this, but he said that he wrote for the trash can.
Oh, nice.
Like that's all he did. And I was having this exact conversation with a client of mine because she was like, but I want to go to the pool first thing in the morning, but I'm always good at writing first thing in the morning. And I'm not good at writing. I'm just like, well, then just like make yourself sit down when you get back. Like if you're going to go to the pool, fine, go to the pool, but make yourself just sit down and like, hello, nervous system, we're writing.
Yeah. And it's me in a room with a closed door and nobody ever has to see this draft other than me. So like, can we just remove the judgment and do it? And that's where that concept of switching hats comes in. It's like, just write the first draft and then take a break and then come back as a customer, a skeptical customer, and read this thing and start poking holes in your own argument and then take another break. I think that's the beauty of writing. Like take a break, disconnect yourself from it, separate from the emotions. Like you were saying, take the emotion out of it. I love that.
Yeah. Go for a walk, get outside, just move.
Yeah. And put that writer hat back on. Okay, now that I know where the holes are, how do I fix these things? And so on and so forth until you've got something that you're proud to put on out into the world.
Yeah. We're all here to do our thing.
Mm-hmm.
I have this belief that we're all doing what we're good at.
Yes.
You're good at writing. I'm good at like helping people craft presentations, craft signature speeches that like for me, speaking is verbal art.
Mm-hmm.
And I help people craft that art and look at it that way. Like it's not just a bunch of words that you're throwing out from the stage. It's like we craft this verbal art so that at the end, like you're proud of the article or the web copy, the sales emails that you crafted for your customer, your client, and I want them to be proud of presenting this to an audience.
Mm-hmm. And how great is the energy of the difference of approach there. It's not just a thing to be checked off the never-ending list that you rush through as fast as possible, but you put a little bit of your soul into that and you love it and you believe in it. Like, wow, that connects on such a deep level that you can't even really articulate, I think.
Yeah. I mean, like as a speaker, like I want to connect with my audience's mind, their heart, and their soul.
I love it.
Those three things.
It's interesting too, as we talk about this whole concept of the drafting and separating from the emotions of it. I know that a lot of us experience this kind of self-judgment because if I had more discipline, I could just get it done. And the thought that popped up to me, I wrote down as you were talking, was maybe if we reframed this, you could put the passion back into it. Maybe instead of lacking discipline, you haven't made it a priority. You haven't figured out what's really important to you. And so now it feels like a chore instead of a joy.
And what if discipline is just a habit?
Oh, I love that.
A habit that you haven't strengthened.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us are growing up thinking like, well, I'm not motivated enough. I'm not disciplined enough. It's like, well, do you think I am? I got here because I made a decision that I was committed to my business.
Mm-hmm.
You talked earlier about, like having the business plan, knowing the 5-year, the 10-year. Like when I left my corporate job, I had no business plan, no sales skills. And I was like, oh, people said, if you build it, they will come. No, nobody found me.
It's not quite how it works, but we do love our movie tropes, right?
No, nobody found me until I got out in front of people and just said, I'm just going to try this.
And we're willing to potentially do it wrong. We're willing to say, all right, I'm done. And walk off the stage.
I'm done now.
I'm done. I think that's fantastic. Oh.
And I love sharing that story with people because I don't want them to think being a speaker, it's not like I have this speaker DNA. Mm-hmm. It's a skill that I learned. And I started once upon a time and I gave my first speech.
Yep.
My very first live stream, I also want to share with people, like my very first live stream is still on my Facebook page because I want people to go look at it because I was so flat, like there's no personality. It was like a board was talking because I was like, oh my God, like I don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I have a
but
similar.
I learned. How about podcasting? Your first podcast? I remember recording my first one in, like in the closet. I came out of the closet, I was just like, Jeepus Crow, I can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, Laurie-Ann, your podcast recording muscle is really weak.
Mm-hmm.
Get back in there.
Yeah, work it out. The very first podcast episode that I recorded was part of a workshop I was doing for Seth Godin's podcasting workshop. And so I contacted a couple of my buddies, and they're actually in week 1 of the podcast. They're super short episodes because I hadn't developed my hosting skills just yet. Mm-hmm. But the very first episode, I made her the very first episode for a reason, Rachel Mazza, because everything that could have gone wrong during that interview did. The air conditioner was out. The windows were open. There are jets flying overhead. There's a thunderstorm moving through. The electrician rang the doorbell. The boyfriend knocked on the door. The cat is yowling because she can't come in. Like I feel, and I didn't have an editor at that point. I'm having to stitch all of this together and cut all these pieces out myself. I mean, just in editing that very first episode, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? This is horrible. But then I got to write the show notes because when I shared it with people, they were like, I never would have known that all that stuff happens. What are you talking about? I'm like, it's such a good episode. It's only like 18 minutes or something. It's pretty short. But I was like, it's good. I mean, all I have attached to it is this feeling of failure because everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. And I just wanted so much better for it.
And look at the evidence that you have. Like everything can go wrong. You can still have a beautiful episode. And people are like, really? There was something wrong with that episode?
Yeah.
Again, your audience is just supporting you. Like, know the behind the scenes stuff. And your audience only sees that front stage.
Yes. They see the work that you've put in. So just put in the work. Like, what if you just detach that? I love that we're talking about tapping into and developing habits too. Because one thought occurred to me recently. I'm in this group that I jokingly call group therapy for entrepreneurs because it's a business mastermind, but it's run by a woman who is a psychotherapist, like licensed. And she teaches us a lot of these mindset tricks and these good habits to set ourselves up for success. And one that I constantly struggle with is a wake up routine and a wind down routine. I will be really, really good at one for a while and then just completely fall off the wagon.
What's your wake up routine?
I like to get up, brew the coffee, stretch, be in silence for a little while, drink some water, write some thoughts down. And it's such an easy thing that I don't know if I'm like undervaluing it or what, but I remember taking it to, I learned 2 critical things in this. One was that actually the success of the morning routine depends on the evening routine. And did you wind yourself down and get enough rest so that you can get up in the morning and do your routine? So that was one that kind of blew my mind because I was habitually like on my phone late into the night and not actually setting myself up for morning success. And the other one that really surprised me, I had a moment of frustration at one of our meetings and I was like, why can't I just get this damn routine thing down? And she goes, I wonder if you are potentially treating this like a project that has a start and an end date versus a process. And I was like, I'm confused. Tell me more. And she goes, So you do it for a while and you're very consistent and you achieve the goal, which is balanced, happy, healthy, energized, fantastic days, resting well. And it feels to you like, yes, crossed that finish line, done with that, no longer need to do the thing. And in reality is that's the thing that got you to that balanced level place, well rested, high energy. So keep doing it. Don't stop now.
Yes. Yes. And my morning routine is it's similar. It's get up. There are some back stretches that I do while I repeat certain affirmations because I want to have a healthy back for the rest of my life. Coffee.
Yes.
And and then I'll listen to something that's positive, like, earpods, put them in, so that I'm not listening to other noise as well.
Yes.
And then just kind of just enjoy my coffee. And now during the nice weather here, in New Hampshire, I want to go sit outside while I'm sipping the coffee so that I get it's just so peaceful. And I want to start my day off on that kind of a note.
Exactly.
Peaceful. But it took a while to get there because I used to be that person who got up and grabbed her phone and started reading other people's emergencies, which that's what my nickname is for email. It's other people's emergencies.
It really is. And it puts you into a reactive state versus a proactive state. And then it's so easy to spend the rest of your day reacting to other people's emergencies. And you get to the end of the day and you go, well, crap, I didn't work on anything I wanted to work on today.
Yeah, I don't like that. And I don't like that feeling at the end of the day. But and that when my husband's away, I take advantage of the quiet house. I just the other day, I recorded 4 podcasts.
Yes.
Because the ideas just came to me and I was just I know it's 7:00 and normally I'm not in here at 7:00, but I'm just I'm recording a podcast.
Yeah. I have the opportunity. I'm going to take advantage of this energy. Hell yeah. Yeah. We talk about discipline and habits. I don't know if I've ever really fully explained on the show before, but I shut down production for usually a couple months at a time because I wind up recording so many episodes and I get so far ahead of the release schedule that when new people book on the show, they go, oh, you're not going to air me for 6 or 7 months. Never mind. I didn't know that I was signing up for that long of a wait. And I did that by accident my first year of podcasting because I was so paranoid that something is going to go wrong and somebody's not going to show up and I'm not going to have an episode for that week and everything is going to fall apart. So I started blocking off Wednesday afternoons for recording podcast. And that's the only day of the week that I record. My longest recording date, which I'm going to try not to do again in the future, but I wound up doing 5 episodes back to back.
Wow.
And when you think of 5 episodes in one day being an entire month's worth of content, it's easy to understand how I got so far ahead. But then I accidentally created this ease for myself because, I'm going to open up recording for 2 months. I'm going to fill all my Wednesdays with a bunch of episodes. I'm going to get through the end of the year at this point. We're recording. We talked just before we started recording about how this is going to air in October, but we're recording in July right now. Fill up the rest of the year and then take some time off and repeat.
So I'm curious, do you miss recording when you have those big breaks?
I do, because the surprising thing about this, and I arrived at this conclusion after a lot of talks with my life coach, but when I would kind of get into that resistance or that insecurity space, I would find myself being tempted to cancel or move recordings. And when I would talk myself into, just show up and have the conversation because everything else that has to happen after this to produce and make an episode live can happen later. But you just show up and record for now. That's all you got to do. And then I would show up and just like we're having now, we have such a wonderful conversation and we're laughing and we're smiling and telling great stories. And by the end of the day, I would just be so light and energized and glad that I did that thing that I was resisting. And it's a thing that I feel good at because I've worked on developing those skills. Like you said, was I always a great podcast host? Probably not, but I'm getting better every day.
I've been podcasting now for 2 years. And I just recorded, the other day when I recorded a bunch of episodes, recorded my 2-year anniversary. So I'm labeling that episode 111. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can see how I've changed. And I heard somebody once say, podcasting will change you as a speaker. I'm a much better speaker now.
Oh, yes.
Than I was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that's, people are frustrated with their abilities to speak, or they're worried about their or ah or their various verbal tics that they develop. Like, nothing will help you get rid of that faster than actually forcing yourself to listen to a recording of yourself. And like, again, remove that emotion. Like we said, we keep circling back in such a beautiful way. Remove that emotion, remove that judgment, and just listen. And I discovered that I had, in my early days, this habit of, like, when I finished a thought, taking a really loud breath and going, I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to tell James, my editor, my wonderful editor, leave that one in, because I have told him since then, like, if you notice me sniffling, please edit that out, because that's one thing. And then I try and watch if I'm taking large breaths in at the ends. But I never would have learned that if I hadn't taken that, like, step of listen to myself and go, okay, it's okay.
I got something funny to say about that. In the speaking world, and I tell my clients this also, if you're able to record yourself, whether that's just audio or just video, like if it's video, you should watch it without sound, so that then you can see some of your movements. You should shut the video off and just listen.
Ooh.
And then a third time, just like watch it as is, watch the video, like while you're listening to the audio. So I was sharing with a client, I said, I think, she's going to like Voxer me, like her intro, and we're just going to go back and forth. She's like, but I don't want to listen to myself. So I said, I'm going to tell you something that we say in the speaker world. I said, I'm going to pretend that I'm your audience. If I have to listen to you, you have to listen to yourself.
Don't expect the audience to do anything that you wouldn't, guys.
Right. Listen to yourself. That's where we learn about, here's when I take the deep breath in. Here's when I have a tendency to say, and by the way, like, unless you're saying, so much and it's distracting, then it's not really a big deal.
Yeah, it's totally okay. We've both said a few times while we're pausing to catch our thoughts. And that's been a practice of mine too, since regularly recording, to recognize that I don't have to fill that space. Yeah. I can just allow a couple of seconds grace right there for my thoughts to catch up with my mouth. Yes. And keep it rolling without the filler words.
Yes. But it's funny, some of the things that we're telling ourselves.
All of these merciless self-judgments that wind up keeping us playing small and not putting ourselves out there and discovering that this could be easier than we're making it out to be.
Yeah. And what are you holding back? Like, I always look at this as there is somebody who needs to hear your story. You who doesn't want to tell your story, but there's somebody who needs to hear it so that they can make the change that they need in their life. I mean, think back to the patient who told me, you probably would love the book, The Magic of Things. What if he had kept his mouth shut? Just buttoned his shirt and just said, yep, see you later, lady. Bye.
He judged that thought. I really want to recommend this book to her, but she's going to be like, that's weird, or that's boring, or hell no, I'm not going to read that book. Yeah. Wow. Like, yeah, the thoughts that are constantly kind of start cycling through the back of our heads that stop us from acting could change somebody's life.
Could change somebody's. So I always like to remind everybody, the world needs you. Whatever your craft is, like, what if we came from that point of view and just did the damn thing?
Yes.
Stop worrying about, but somebody else is already doing it. Oh, thank goodness. And then that there's a market for this.
Yes. And stop judging about whether you're enough. Stop comparing yourself to other people's yardsticks and compared to that person. Yeah, I'm going to tell you something funny that I think that you would find amusing. So a lot of people know that I'm doing this crazy digital nomad thing, but I get caught in the comparison trap too, because first of all, it's my everyday life. So it doesn't feel quite as fantastical as everybody else probably sees from the outside. They see hot air balloons and llama yoga, and I see laundry and having to move my shit in and out of the elevator and a screaming cat. Like, I see the reality of this every day. So it's not quite as exciting to me. And then, of course, like you talked about with knowing the backstage versus the polished production, I see other digital nomads going to different countries and eating exotic foods and like these well-produced video documentation of their travels. And I'm like, I forget to write about my travels all the freaking time. And I go, well, I'm not really a digital nomad. Those are digital nomads over there. Like they document, they tell people, they change lives, all of that jazz. I'm just over here like, yeah, let's eat some really good food today. And then one of my friends goes, you know, you're fucking ridiculous, right? And I was like, well, wait, what? I am taken aback here. She's like, there are so many people that would love to do what you're doing, even though you feel like it's not enough. So like, could you just stop it already?
She has a point.
Uh-huh.
That there are some people who are looking at your life, even though you're like, I'm living in a hotel right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but they're looking at like, wow, how courageous are you to be doing that? And again, we're all role models.
Yep.
You and I have no idea who we are influencing right now. There are people who are constantly watching us and are probably saying, damn, if she could overcome her shyness, maybe I can.
Mm-hmm.
If she's got enough courage to like pick up and like just put her like, how could I actually put my stuff in a car and travel around the country and do what she's doing?
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to put in place so that maybe that could become my reality? So we're just living our lives and helping other people hopefully live theirs.
I love that. I think that's the perfect note to end on too. For you that are living your lives, feeling like you're a little bit ordinary and like you have nothing to contribute, just like me doing my laundry as a digital nomad, thinking this is not very exciting or sexy. You could be doing something that's very exciting or sexy to other people who see what you're doing just by living your life. So you go live that life, however ordinary you might think, and just be full on you, full passion, and take risks and chances and put yourself out there.
Please say yes.
Yes.
Say yes.
Absolutely. Oh, this is so good. And I want to talk for like 3 more hours. But anyway, tell us more about your business and how to learn more about all of your speech writing goodness.
Thank you. Thank you. You can find me over on speakandstandout.com. I hang out a lot on Instagram and also LinkedIn. I have my own podcast called Be in Demand.
Yes.
And I also do offer private coaching as well as my group program, which is In Demand Signature Speech. And it's an 8-week program that helps you go from beginning to end. And by the end of the 8 weeks, you will have learned all the different parts that go into a signature speech, and you will have a completed signature speech by the end of the program.
I love it. I love it. See, that's the skills development that we were talking about, right in action there. Just follow it step by step and develop your skills. Thank you so much for being on the show. This was such a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed this.
We're going to have to do a part 2.
Absolutely.
So that is it. Another awesome episode of Permission to Kick Ass on the books. If you want to know more about the show, if you want to know more about me, Angie Coley, and the mission I'm on to help entrepreneurs punch fear in the face and do big, bold things, then head on over to permissiontokickass.com. That is all one word together, permissiontokickass.com. Make sure to sign up for my email list so that you know whenever there's a hot, fresh, and ready podcast episode out for you. And also on Mondays, I like to send out a little newsletter called Kick Monday's Ass. I'm sure you're totally surprised by that. So thank you for being here with me today. I'm Angie Coley. Make sure that you share this with a friend that needs to hear this message today. Like it, share it, comment wherever you're listening to this today, and let's go kick some ass.